screwed it up last year. You know what's funny?
I
The
don't
big
ever
argument
remember
for
it being this bad.
UNC. Big argument llast year with UNC is the net, which is the NCAA's
Yep.
evaluation tool,
Yep.
and the Ken Palm. North Carolina is hovering in the 30s, which is high, which is good. It means they have a good offense, they have a good tempo, the whole thing. And they were in the 30s.
Yep.
St. John's was also 36 in it last year. They didn't get in. So St. John's did not get the same benefit of the doubt for the same reasoning that North Carolina got last year, but North Carolina gets it this year. When they're 1-12, let me reiterate.
Yep.
North Carolina 1-12 in quad 1 games. That is against teams that are 1 through 30 in their building, 1 through 50 on a neutral court, or 1 through 75 in their building, at home, on the road. That is the criteria for a quad 1 game. They went 1-12. West Virginia went 6-10, and they didn't get in. Oklahoma 4-11 in quad 1 games. They got in.
6-12 in conference.
Arkansas 5-10 in quad 1. They got in.
8-10 in conference for Arkansas.
I can't word to the SEC is so much better than the ACC. It's almost it's such a diluted argument. But I understand it's quad 1. These
Right.
are good teams. This
Right.
is the big bubble. Xavier, who's in the tournament, they're 1-9 against quad 1 teams. 1-9. And Xavier got screwed last year.
Well,
Indiana, another team who got screwed. We haven't even brought up Indiana
Yeah.
yet. 4-13, but Indiana has marquee wins. They beat Purdue. They beat Michigan State in their building. That is a tournament
it is.
bid game.
And Mike Woodson's last dance too. There was a story there as well.
They said UNC was the last team in. And for some reason, because of player availability, they got Florida Stated.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. They got Florida Stated from last year.
I know. And listen, I know Texas nonetheless is in a playing game too, but
Texas beat Texas
I
A&M
don't
in the
care.
SEC
Colin.
tournament, and A&M is a solid team.
15 losses and 6-12 in the conference.
Well, you can't say that Texas should be out.
Okay.
Xavier and UNC should be out before Texas is. That's my takeaway.
Because of the quad 1 wins.
Because they play in a worse conference and they didn't beat any good teams. Texas A&M beat Auburn a week and a half ago.
Are we going to see this SEC argument maybe blow up a little bit in the committee's face during the tournament? Are we going to see some of these teams maybe not show up?
You're going to forget about this the second. The unfortunate part is people usually forget about this the second the tournament starts.
Yeah, because it's so
especially
much fun.
But the idea into the tournament is you got to put together a resume that gets you in. And they completely screwed West Virginia in this spot. And Indiana. But I think West Virginia has a better resume than Indiana. Because Indiana had a bad loss too. They lost to Oregon in the Big Ten tournament. But the inconsistencies in how the committee operates, I had a major problem with. You cannot cater to one side. Oh, West Virginia didn't play well in the Big 12 tournament, but then not give anybody any sort of leaps or jumps or spots up or seeds up because they were great in their conference tournament. You can't play both sides. It's not fair. I don't understand. I'm not seeing this. Where is West Virginia worse than UNC? They have better wins. They've beaten good teams. They've beaten Gonzaga. They've beaten Arizona. They've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Iowa State. UNC has beaten nobody. Nobody. I do not understand how North Carolina, who is 22-13, who has lost to Duke 3 times, 2 of which uncompetitive, 2.5, really, if you want to call it like we see it.
Yep.
I don't understand it. I'm not seeing this. North Carolina lost every big game they played all year, and they played some teams close. Fine. They played Michigan State close, played Auburn close enough. That team does not deserve to get in the tournament. I have a major problem with how the committee handled that.
Yeah, me too. And I go back to what I said on Friday. If they don't beat Duke without Cooper Flagg, they don't belong in. And for everything that you just broke down there, the lack of quad 1 wins, the bad ACC conference, and having 13 losses, they do not deserve to be in the tournament. And I think it's and another more to your point, it was the recency bias of North Carolina going deep, as you can see me on the YouTube stream, I'm doing air quotes, going deep in a bad ACC tournament, and West Virginia losing first round to the last place team of Colorado. They're playing both sides. Why are you punishing one team for playing bad in their conference tournament and then not punishing the other? There needs to be accountability. I agree with you. There needs to be accountability within the committee, similar to how we were complaining about football. You got to do it in a way where it's fair. You can't play favorites. And I understand the big brand, North Carolina, Jordan brand. They got the Jordan Star and the Jordan Jumpman on their jersey. I understand that it's probably a bigger brand than West Virginia, but it was the wrong move. You're setting the wrong tone, I think, for a lot of these teams who had a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on a basketball court. And we mentioned it's a longer season. I mean, Colin, we've played 30. Some of these teams played 35, 40 games. So, I don't know. Got a big problem with it. And like you said, we're going to forget about it when the madness starts on Thursday. But I'm not surprised to see that the governor of West Virginia
he's suing the NCAA.
He's calling it highway robbery.
117 of 117 on this insider website of all these bracketologists who do this for a living, who study this as the ultimate hobby. 117 of 117 have West Virginia in.
Yeah.
Except for the committee. You got to feel for that fan base. And even if you're a West Virginia fan or not, it's got to annoy you a little bit.
Definitely.
That North Carolina is getting this benefit of the doubt for absolutely no reason. College basketball has so many metrics. They have the net. They have the Ken Palm, which measures how good you are offensively versus defensively. They have your quad one victory, strength of schedule. They have everything quantified. And the whole thing, it's all there in front of you. And West Virginia does not take any cake over North Carolina, nor over North Carolina in any of those senses. And that's just one. That's just one. That's not even including Indiana, who probably could have gotten a bid.
Yep.
How do you screw this up? And part of me thinks, and listen, we'll get into the seedings as the show goes along.
Sure.
The committee sets. It's hard to set this bracket. There's a lot of regionality that you have to adhere to, and teams can't play each other in that first weekend that they've already played before. You can't do any of it. There's a lot of restrictions.
Totally.
But they set this bracket up basically 75% the way through before you even get to the conference tournaments. That's before.
Yep.
And they don't want to touch it. Michigan beat Wisconsin 45 minutes before the selection show started. And Michigan State is a 5 against a very good 12 in UC San Diego.
Yep, and Wisconsin is a 3 for that fact, too. You mentioned Maryland to me in the pre-show meeting, too. I thought Maryland kind of got the wrong end of the bargain there, too.
And whether you think Maryland should be in a good spot or not on the seeding is one thing. But the other thing,
Clemson, you mentioned
they schedule these guys, and some of these teams get screwed. This is funny. Maryland is playing in Seattle, Washington, 1 p.m. Pacific time on Friday. That is brutal. Usually they try to throw these guys. St. John's is in Providence. UConn, UConn, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Especially the higher seeds.
Not a terrible. Maryland is from Indianapolis over the weekend. Is going to have to fly back to College Park, and then they're going to have to fly all the way out back to Seattle for that first round game. You think any Maryland fans are going to that game?
It's a long flight.
That's a long flight.
It's a long flight, partner.
Wisconsin even got a bad end of the stick too because they're in Denver.
Yep.
They played 4 games in 4 days over the weekend, and then all of a sudden they're playing Thursday, the third total game.
And also, you mentioned, too, like BYU, they've played in high altitude. Montana, they've played in high altitude.
That's another, if you really want to dive into it.
Yeah, we are. Absolutely.
That's
What's the highest mountain you got in Wisconsin, Colin? What bunny hill did you guys
play very close to sea level,
okay.
Let's put it that way.
There you go. There you go.
So the committee, it's like they do this they do this so half-assed. I don't understand how a team like West Virginia is out, how a team like Louisville is an 8 seed, this doesn't make how Gonzaga is an 8 seed.
One thing's for certain, they had the SEC bias made up before the conference tournaments even started, and I think that they filled the rest out. To your point, as they went on, Michigan at a 5 is hysterical. Michigan at a 5, I think, is absolutely hysterical.
They won the Big Ten.
Correct. They won the Big Ten tournament,
and they show this year in and year out. How these conference tournaments do not matter. And why do you even play?
Right.
Why do you even play? Why do you even care about winning?
And
you're just going to gas yourself out.
Michigan State was the best team in the Big Ten. I agree that they should be the highest seed. But with the recency bias of Michigan beating the teams that they did in that tournament, a 5 seed is crazy. And a lot of people like that UC San Diego team. I don't know much about them, Colin. A lot of people like that
matchup for Michigan.
A lot of people like that UC San Diego matchup. That's a juicy pick.
Yeah, it's a trendy pick, trendy upset. So now Michigan State is in that dreaded 5 spot.
Michigan's in the 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then that dreaded 5 spot where those 12s are very dangerous here. Wisconsin was in the same position last year. They got blitzed by James Madison at the
Your
Barclays
favorite
Center.
game. How could you forget?
Oh, God. But point being is Michigan gets burned here. Why do you even play hard in the conference tournaments if you're not going to get any benefit from it?
Dude, isn't this carbon copy what we said about college football? Why play in this thing if it's going to? Remember what
Yeah,
we
there's
said about
less
the
teams fighting for spots, but I'm saying if you're great, you
exactly.
don't need to. It doesn't help you.
Why are you playing in these conference
It's
championship
wear and
games
tear.
and tournaments if it's not going to matter?
These teams have crazy wear and tear. Now, Wisconsin played 4 games in 4 days, and then they play Thursday, the second round, and they have to travel to Denver where they have to acclimate to altitude. How is that? I'm not going to talk about fairness, and I'm not defending Wisconsin, but that's a tough spot. That is not easy.
Come on, Kyle, show some pride. Defend your